Good morning, gang. Happy Wednesday morning. Okay, yes, I know my eyes look a little swollen. I don't know if I got poison ivy or what. I don't know how I would have gotten poison ivy. The only place I've been is in my gardens lately. But yeah, for some reason my eyes are swollen. So yes, I know. We'll see what happens. So yesterday was quite an eventful day. Obviously, we had Tim Walz announced as the vice presidential candidate on the communist ticket. Kamala Harris and Tim Walz gave their first joint rally together. And I'll talk about that in a minute because that goes into the bad news. The good news is, and not that it really matters, but it's just nice to see, Cori Bush, one of the squad members, officially lost her primary yesterday, so she will no longer be the congresswoman from the St. Louis area in Missouri. So one less squad member. If you remember her, this is, the one, of course, who was completely crooked, taking campaign contributions and paying her boyfriend to be her bodyguard and, all this sort of fun stuff. So she's gone. So that's good. One less worthless piece of trash in Washington. Though Wesley Bell, the guy that we're going to get instead, is a progressive just as well. But St. Louis is so deep blue, that's over. So he'll be the next congressman. We'll see how he aligns. He seems to be a little right of Cori Bush, but then again, so is Joseph Stalin. So we'll see how that one works. But back to Tim Walz and Kamala Harris. So yesterday they gave their first rally, announced the official announcement of Tim Walz in Pennsylvania, which was funny because, of course, the two of them came out. Both of them sounded like they were drunk off their ass doing this, which wouldn't surprise me. I mean, it's not like, there's any sort of decorum or respect that, should be given to these two. But the official line yesterday, of course, is we are going to pass universal background checks. We are going to institute red flag laws, and we are going to institute a gun confiscation. That was kind of the highlight. Of course, they spread the normal lies about J.D. Vance and the couch, and they spread the lies about Project 25. And the crowd was all over the place screaming and yelling, which that got to be an interesting point too, because there have been plenty of stories that have come out about Kamala Harris paying people to show up at rallies, that they've been rounding up homeless people and paying them to go to the rallies. There was a TikToker or somebody that on tape yesterday, as he was live streaming, got a call from the campaign telling him that they'd pay him to show up to these rallies. There's been all sorts of crooked crap going on. I mean, they can pay anybody to do anything. That's fine. But, then to come out and say, oh, look how many people are here, that's different, okay? And it's a sad state of America when there are actually people who would sell out their values to make a buck. And we know there's plenty of them, okay? I don't care. You could offer me $10 billion and I'm not going to go, yeah, I'll vote for Kamala Harris. Buying votes is the typical way of Democrats doing things. So that was something to pay attention to. Something really important to pay attention to, and I don't know how much everybody knows how this works, so I'm going to explain it real quick. If you look at the polls, and granted it's still early August, so there's a minuscule amount of people who haven't made up their minds yet. But the ones who haven't made up their minds more or less will have a tendency to tip toward Kamala Harris, okay? because by this point, if you don't know you're voting for Trump, it's not like you don't know who the guy is, all right? Kamala Harris has been sight unseen for 4 years as vice president, and nobody outside of Minnesota has a clue who Tim Walz is. So unless somebody has an epiphany and goes, gee, these two are absolute communists, she'll probably get the vote. So if you look at the polls as they stand right now, and I know we can talk about polls all we want, and that Hillary Clinton was supposed to have a 99% chance of winning and everything, but we've got to pay attention to something. This is where I'm saying don't rest on your laurels. This is not a given. Matter of fact, if you look at the polls right now, if the election was held today and everything fell according to the polls, Kamala Harris is our next president. And that should scare the living crap out of people. Why do I say that? Well, she's flipped some of the swing states. Now, Arizona, Georgia, and Nevada are all in the Trump column right now. Arizona, Trump's up by 3. Georgia, Trump's up by 2. Nevada, Trump's up by 2.3. Okay? I mean, I won't say those are solid, but they're at least decent leads. The problem is, in Michigan, Kamala Harris is up 1.7. Minnesota, I'm not worried about. That was never a swing state. She's up 7 there. It's not like that was going to change. Okay. Pennsylvania, she's up 0.3. And Wisconsin, she's up 0.6. If the election fell exactly like that, the total vote count in the Electoral College would be Kamala Harris 270, Donald Trump 268. And Kamala Harris would be your next president. This is why I say don't rest on our laurels. Okay. Now, it doesn't take much to flip this. I'll tell you how teeny tiny it could take. Nebraska, for example, does split votes. You guys have probably seen this by congressional district and then by the state. All right. And traditionally, Nebraska is a red state, but that one teeny little district has a tendency to vote Democrat. However, this year, 2024, that election seems to be extremely close. If Trump wins that, it's 269 to 269. Nobody got to 270. We have a tie. A lot of people don't know how the president is picked in the case that we have a tie. It goes to the House of Representatives. Each state gets one vote. No weighted votes like Electoral College. There are 50 votes. Each state gets one. That is it. Whoever gets 26 is crowned the new president, if you will. This is actually an advantage to Donald Trump, because if you break out the way the states are going to vote, again, if we use the same polls, like I just said, Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania going blue, Nevada, Arizona, Georgia going red, Trump wins 28 states and Kamala Harris wins 22. Doesn't mean that's the way the representatives in the House are going to vote, because as the aforementioned comment about Cori Bush, there are some delegates, some representatives in each state that are Democrat. Of course, you have Democrat representatives in red states, you have Republican representatives in blue states. Sure, no problem. The only thing is they'll be outweighed in delegates, at that point. This is why it is so important to win the House in November. Because if a state has a majority of Democrat representatives, even though they voted red, they could still vote for Kamala Harris. This is how close this is, guys. This is where I say don't rest on our laurels. Trump needs to win one of those states, Wisconsin, Michigan, or Pennsylvania. They are all close. This is why I said last night that I think not picking Josh Shapiro will backfire, because the more Tim Walz talks, and if Kamala Harris ever does talk, if they don't continue the basement strategy, this is what we're going to have. It's going to be a very tight election, which is scarier because we know the Democrats will cheat. A lot of people are turned off by politics. I totally understand that, okay? I mean, it is painful to pay attention to it. However, running away and saying, I'm not voting, everybody sucks, doesn't solve anything, because no matter what happens, you're still forced to live under whatever decisions they make. You don't vote because you don't like Kamala Harris or Donald Trump, and Kamala Harris wins and does a mandatory gun confiscation, like I said, which can never be enforced, okay? You still have to abide by that. There's no I didn't vote for you, so it doesn't apply to me. That doesn't work, okay? People need to start looking at are you better off now than you were 4 years ago? There was a story out this morning about uninsured Americans, health insurance. 27% of Americans now don't have health insurance. Why? Probably because they can't afford it. All right. Remember the Affordable Care Act, the Obamacare Act, that we had to get 30 million uninsured Americans covered, so we needed the Affordable Care Act? 30 million Americans is 10% of the population. We now have the ACA, and we've tripled the amount of uninsured people. Okay. People can't afford stuff. They can't afford cars, houses, food, electricity, insurance. These are the things that are important. People can talk about abortion all they want. Okay. Sure, for some people that are completely irresponsible and don't want to go spend $3 to buy a condom, abortion's a form of birth control. Got it. Okay. The rest of us who can't afford $3 for a loaf of bread, that we need to buy a lot more often, unless you're Kamala Harris, we need to start looking at that sort of stuff. This is close. We had some good news in Cori Bush losing yesterday. That's just a moral victory. But guys, it's gonna be up to us to get the word out, to talk to people, to explain to those people that are sitting on the fence why we can't have 4 more years of this crap. We won't have a country if we do. Pinball out.